Dopamine is the exact same chemical that makes us feel good when we smoke, when we drink. It's highly, highly addictive. Technology is wonderful. Too much technology can be very destructive and destroy our relationships, like all addictions destroy our relationships.
My biggest concern is the unfettered access to social media and cell phones, quite frankly.
Now, where it gets really dangerous is with kids, millennials. So you have an entire generation growing up with addiction and an increased sense of loneliness and isolation. We're seeing the effects of loneliness and isolation. We're seeing it, and yet we're not reacting to it. We're not doing anything about it. We know that engagement with social media and our cell phones releases a chemical called dopamine. That's why when you get a text, it feels good. So, we've all had it where you're feeling a little bit down or feeling a bit lonely, and so you send out 10 texts to 10 friends, hi, 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 because it feels good when you get a response. We know that the chemical dopamine is released whenever we get a bing, buzz, flash, or beep from our phone or email. Dopamine is the exact same chemical that's released in alcohol, nicotine, and gambling. In other words, it can be addictive if left unbalanced. Because we know when you get a hit of dopamine, which feels good. It's why we like it, it's why we keep going back to it. Now take an entire generation that has no memory of a time before the device. So this is their normal, that's how they feel. We have age restrictions on smoking, gambling, alcohol, and we have no age restrictions on social media and cell phones, which is the equivalent of opening up the liquor cabinet and saying to our teenagers, hey, by the way, this adolescence thing, if it gets you down, that's basically what happened. You have an entire generation that has access to an addictive, numbing chemical called dopamine through social media and cell phones as they're going through the high stress of adolescence.
The problem with addiction is addicts know that it's bad for them. Like, there are plenty of alcoholics who know that what they're doing is unhealthy, but they're addicted, which is why they keep doing it.
Why is this important? Almost every alcoholic discovered alcohol when they were teenagers. When we're very, very young, the only approval we need is the approval of our parents. And as we go through adolescence, we make this transition where we now need the approval of our peers.
But I think many of us can admit that what we do is unhealthy and that it is addictive, and we may be addicted. The question is, are we putting ourselves through a regime to try and kick the addiction? So I think, we're past the first step. We've admitted we've had a problem. We've got 11 steps to go.
Right.
But it's moving in the right direction.
Every single generation is affected by whatever's going on in the world during their formative years. So if somebody grew up during the Great Depression or the Second World War, they may grow up to be frugal, wanting to squeeze every drip of toothpaste out of the tube. Well, of course, it's because they grew up during, rations. Of course they're going to be like that. Well, likewise, this generation grew up in a time of technology that we didn't have. And it's had an effect on how they view the world. Some of it positive, some of it more challenging.
Some people, quite by accident, discover alcohol and numbing effects of dopamine to help them cope with the stresses and anxieties of adolescence. Unfortunately, that becomes hardwired in their brains, and for the rest of their lives, when they suffer significant stress, they will not turn to a person, they will turn to the bottle. Social stress, financial stress, career stress, that's pretty much the primary reasons why an alcoholic drinks. Too many kids don't know how to form deep, meaningful relationships. Deep, meaningful relationships are not there because they never practice the skill set, and worse, they don't have the coping mechanisms to deal with stress. So when significant stress starts to show up in their lives, they're not turning to a person, they're turning to a device, they're turning to social media, they're turning to these things which offer temporary relief.
It's about balance. It's not that they're inherently bad, and it's not that texting or social media is inherently bad, but it's when it gets out of balance. If somebody carries their phone wherever they go, like they physically feel anxiety if they put it down. When they wake up in the morning and check their phone before they say good morning to the person sleeping next to them. When they're with their friends and have to have it up the entire time looking at the phone while they're with their friends. These are problems. This is out of balance.
We know, the science is clear, we know that people who spend more time on Facebook suffer higher rates of depression than people who spend less time on Facebook. And like all addiction, in time it'll destroy relationships, it'll cost time, and it'll cost money, and it'll make your life worse.
I think we're going to start to see more companies passing rules that there's no cell phones in conference rooms for any meetings. I think we're going to start seeing more restaurants banning cell phones in their restaurants. I think that's a good thing.
The responsibility on companies is even greater than it's ever been before to take care of its people. And if you want someone to take responsibility for the life of your children in their company, then then why don't we start taking responsibility for the lives of the children in our companies?
Simon Sinek is a speaker and teacher, as well as authored several books, including Start With Why, The Infinite Game, and Good Leaders Eat Last. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to the channel, like the video, and comment for any new videos that you'd like to see.